Welcome to Turtles Rising, the podcast where we're extremely excited about turtles. And this time, a special episode, a Q&A episode. A special episode, a Q&A episode where we actually talk to Ron Corcillo and Russ Carney, two of the writers on the show. They reached out to us and offered to be on the podcast, and we're so excited. And we're recording this after we record the interview, and it's so good, you guys. I'm so happy with it.
It was a lot of fun. Really, once again, thank you very much to Russ Carney for having the idea and basically inviting himself to our podcast. That was amazing. And thank you very much to the both of them, to both of these staff writers for taking the time to hang out with us and nerd about Rise of the TMNT with us a little bit. It was a lot of fun. It was great talking to you. Thank you very much.
It's an experience that I will remember always. And we did get a bunch of questions sent in by you guys.
What did you say? 100 and something?
116.
Yeah, 116 questions. Tiramisu Art helped you to categorize all of these questions. And then you summarized them again into, I think it was like 26
questions.
General questions. Yeah.
So if your question isn't answered in this, then either it was cut for time or it was cut because of legal reasons or anything that they couldn't talk about regarding the potential future of the show.
Exactly. But without further ado, please enjoy the Q&A. Let's go.
Okay.
All right. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Em.
Thank you.
And I'm Nati.
Hello.
And we're happy to have you be a part of the podcast, right? Genuinely. Thank you both for making time to actually come on the podcast and talk to the fans.
We are unemployed. We have nothing else to do.
I know. That hurts me every time I see you or I hear about it. It hurts me.
Unemployed during a pandemic too. That must be rough.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of the norm, actually.
Yeah.
Us and 20 million other people. So
Yeah.
Yeah. It's rough times. We're going through interesting times. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, we're going through them. We're not stuck in them, so we can do it.
Yeah, but thank you so much, Russ, for suggesting this, because I don't think we really had an idea of that. And then you suddenly slid into those Twitter, not DMs, but in those messages, and you basically invited yourself to the podcast. And I was just like, wait, did that just happen?
it was like, I think it was like 5 a.m. for me.
It was my 7 a.m. in the morning.
You two have done such a tremendous job with the podcast. You know, when just listening to you guys enjoy the show and find nuance and stuff that we were hoping people would find nuance in. There was a Hugin and Moonin episode, and you guys, we're basically spot on a lot of stuff. Like one of the things I remember is you described them as unreliable narrators or whatever. I can't remember what the phrasing was, and it's absolutely true. And there was a concern in that episode that is it going to undermine Draxum's awesomeness if he's acting goofy in this episode? And I in my heart felt, and I know Ron felt the same way, that it's because it's a Heckle and Jekyll cartoon. Anyway, I'm talking too much. But
please continue talking. It's amazing.
You've done a great job. So it was a delight to want to be on this.
Oh, thank you very much. That's lovely to hear. I'm glad that the crew enjoyed listening to the podcast, and I'm glad that we in turn can inspire you guys, because you guys inspired all of us, the entire fandom, very much as well. So I'm glad that it's like a symbiotic relationship. It's a give and take.
I agree.
Yeah.
So for this, I asked the fandom to give us a few questions. We did get a few.
A few.
don't be like, when I tell you the number, don't be alarmed. This is not going to be a 7-hour podcast because I did summarize a lot of them. We got 116 questions.
Wow.
This is why we love the fandom.
yeah. It's quite a. But I did manage to, basically a lot of them were about the same things, so I managed to group them together in a more general question. So
great.
I managed to narrow it down to 26. That's including the Swedish chef thing that happened yesterday. So
also, I think someone who helped you doing this was Tiramisu Art, right?
Yes, Tiramisu Art in the fandom helped a lot with that. Helped basically summarize the entire thing and like categorize them all nice for me.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And I just to speak really briefly about the fandom. I've had a lot of. I mean, I've been on show, even the 2012 series. Also Fanboy, where a lot of the stuff that we've seen people say has just been pure hostility, and just because that's what people do on the internet. To see a group of people enthusiastic about the show and psychotically enthusiastic about it is it's an
one way to put it.
We for a year and a half, roughly a year and a half, we couldn't even talk about being on the series because of the non-disclosure stuff. So when we finally, when the show comes out and we get the attention that we've been craving for the year and a half prior, it's an amazing feeling. And the fandom in particular, this one is just amazing. So thank you all. Thank you, you two, but thank you to everyone out there who supports the series.
Honestly,
can I say the fandom is remarkably talented. Like, I mean, just the magazine that they put together and the artwork that people post, and even just the clips that they edit together and everything. Like, it's an impressive group of people. It never ceases to amaze me, and how supportive they are of each other, even about their personal lives and things. People post about things that are going on in their lives, and other fans are helping them through it. It's just incredible.
I think
there's a lot of love out there. You guys are doing a great job.
A lot. The show is about family and about the ties of family and modern families, and this is the feeling that the fandom, a large part of the fandom, adopted. Just this family mentality. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and that it's okay to include anybody in your family who you feel belongs there, regardless of whether they're actually related to you, whether they're the same species as you, whether the family of Rise of TMNT extends across a lot of borders. So I think that's something else that people really pick up on and enjoy.
Hot soup.
Yeah, hot soup.
Hot soup.
That's actually, we can start with that one. I was gonna start with the Mayhem question, but since you segued so beautifully into it, why hot soup?
Oh, let me get the ball rolling on this, because early on there was a lot of pressure from above, let's say, to come up with a catchphrase. Like, I mean, I can't even remember how many times, you guys come up with a catchphrase yet? You come up with a catchphrase? And I mean, like, you can't just create a catchphrase. Like, you could sit and, I don't know, thumbs. I don't know what a catchphrase is. Like, it usually needs to come from the characters and how, when we start writing dialogue for them, that kind of thing. We hadn't even gotten to that point. And Ron and I we were writing Origami Tsunami, and I don't know, he sort of whimsically pitched Lujitsu as the Splinter. We had the Splinter's his TV persona, but then like we were sort of trying to create a scenario that about like a Lujitsu movie, and I mean, it just sort of popped out of nowhere. I think it was my pitch. It was how about a nice bowl of hot soup, and he flips them into the soup. It really just came out of that. It was just sort of trying to get our script done, probably 10 o'clock at night, something like that. And we were, much like the name Lujitsu, we thought that nobody's gonna, be cool with hot soup or even the name Lujitsu, but somehow it slipped through and it became the catchphrase.
I mean, it never became the officially approved catchphrase. Like
No.
we put it in that episode, and then people started asking us about what's the catchphrase going to be, and we're like, well, how about hot soup? And everybody's like, no, and wanted us to come up with other things. And remember, Russ, we went through these lists of just ridiculous, Vindaloo.
Yeah.
Vindaloo.
Yeah.
And we none of that went anywhere, and they started to insist, well, it's going to have to be Cowabunga then, and we were like, we want to do something weird and different, because that's the whole point of Rise of the TMNT, is to be a little weird, and so we just kept pushing for it, and it caught on eventually, but that's just what they say.
I would note that Ron and I have, in our history of writing TMNT, have never written the word Cowabunga in a script. So if it appears in any of our episodes, it was inserted by some rogue.
I mean, on the 2012 show, we worked on the 2012 show, and for that we had Booyah Kasha as the catchphrase, and that was really something where, we went through a bunch of options, and sort of they were like, well, I guess that's better than anything else we got. Like, nobody was really all that on board with that. So I guess we kind of didn't want to do that again, where we just sort of forced something on the show.
Makes sense.
Honestly, I love the idea of them yelling hot soup with it. There's just something so purely, like, innocently magical about them picking up like some random catchphrase they saw in an action movie. It's so pure, and I love that a lot. So I'm also, it's so different. It's like fresh and different, but in universe, it makes perfect sense that they would be yelling hot soup when they're like posed all cool.
Yeah. One thing Russ used to say a lot is that they should have slang that's a little bit off, because they've been living in a sewer their whole lives. So, they wouldn't necessarily slang correctly. So yeah, they could land on something goofy like hot soup and think that's a catchphrase. They don't ever interact with any other actual teenagers, so their slang would be a little off base like that.
I mean, they probably were force-fed the Lujitsu movies their entire life, so yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I definitely feel it was one of those things that, you sort of get exposed to it at a young age, and well, I guess now I'm a Bob Dylan fan because Dad liked Bob Dylan, so
Yeah.
It's probably something like that. But I think they definitely do enjoy the movies, but it probably did start off as punishment, as most.
I know.
Laurel and Hardy. I don't want to watch Laurel and Hardy, Dad.
Yeah.
Then now I love Laurel and Hardy. There you go.
All right, how about we go to the question that started this whole thing on Twitter. What happened to Mayhem? They were there and then they were gone. Where did Mayhem go? We miss Mayhem. We're worried about them.
Yeah, I mean, great question. We ran out of time. I mean, that's maybe a lot of it. You already have a series with a very robust cast. A number of people in the cast. You got Splinter, you have 4 Turtles, you have April, you have Draxum, you have Meat Sweats. There are a lot of characters to service, and you're getting pressure from a lot of different people about that. Like early on in the process, the toy company wanted us to come up with like a commitment list of, okay, you got to have Meat Sweats in at least 6 episodes, and April, and at least whatever the numbers are, I don't recall. And actually their totals didn't even match the number of carts that we had. So they wanted 104 appearances in 52 carts. So it didn't even make sense that way. But sometimes people suffer, sometimes characters suffer, and we couldn't really get a great storyline going for Mayhem because we had a lot of other stuff that we had to set up and service.
You'll notice that, at a certain point, we started saying, let's try to do more episodes that only have 2 turtles in them. Because it's so hard to feature all 4 turtles. And then if you want to also have Splinter, or you want to also have April, and then you have to have a villain. And if there's anybody else they're helping out. So in 11 minutes, it's just really hard to deal with that many characters. So trying to build stories around Mayhem was really tough. The other thing that maybe was a bit of a mistake that we made with Mayhem was the power of teleportation is a really, really powerful thing. Like, you can get out of any situation with that, which is problematic because you don't want to make things too easy for your characters. So putting Mayhem in stories sometimes could get you in trouble because it's like, well, why don't they just have Mayhem zap them out of there? So in that way, Mayhem became a little bit tough to integrate.
Same with Leo's sword. I mean, the same problem with that. Like, oh, well, they're just in a crate. Why don't they why don't they just portal out of there?
Yeah, the key with that is Leo's bad at it. So that's
yes, good.
Yeah, with Mayhem, you don't have that. And of course, Mayhem, I don't know if you know this, but he's named after Russ's cat. So we did want to feature him as much as we could, but unfortunately, didn't work out that way.
I mean, that's good to know. It's fascinating to get a like behind the scenes look at, like, oh yeah, we gave this character teleportation powers, and that kind of put us in a creative corner with that. So that's fascinating. Also, this podcast, like, if there is any question or anything in here that you cannot legally go into or don't want to go into because of spoilers for either potential season 3 that everyone's fighting really hard for, or the movie, or anything like that, if there's like some details you do not want or cannot share, just say pass. I'll just cut that entire segment out or just end it at your pass. So you don't have to explain anything. If there's any details in here that you cannot legally or just like in general share, just let us know. It's no pressure.
All right.
Okay, that's fine. Oh, I will share one other thing about Mayhem. I really wanted in the season 1 finale, Mayhem to be the one who delivers the final blow to Draxum in the dark armor. Nobody would let me do that.
That would have been.
I just wanted it to be out of nowhere. Mayhem is the one who finishes it, but it was April, which is actually great. So I was voted down for good reasons, but I love having somebody really minor suddenly show up and do something really important.
That would have been hilarious, yeah.
April is such a good character.
I was roundly voted down on that.
The consensus, I think, amongst at least all of the Rise fans is that April in this series is absolutely a phenomenal character. Everybody loves April.
All right.
Thank you for that. I will have you know that at some point somebody said that a bunch of middle-aged guys could not possibly write a teenage girl well. So I really appreciate that comment.
She's wonderful, and we love her, and we don't see any middle-aged white guy in her. She is a teenager through and through, and absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. That's awesome to hear.
So
I think the big.
What?
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to go into the next question. If you have anything more about April, we all desperately want to hear it.
I think the big thing was just that we wanted to give her a lot of initiative and make her an important part of the team, even though she doesn't necessarily have the mutant ninja powers. When we really landed on her charging in the premiere, the little Leroy Jenkins bit that we do, where she charges in and they are like, did she just run in there? And she does her April O'Neil chant. I think that was really the moment where we found what that character was going to be.
Yeah, I like female characters who are a little nutty, and I'm always just attracted to creating characters like that, especially females, because growing up, female characters were often, I don't know, kind of cookie cutter, and I never liked that. Yeah, like one of my favorite female characters is Pippi Longstock, and my cousin, female cousin of mine, she and I used to watch Pippi all the time, and Pippi's like the ultimate punk rock chick, and she is a little nutty. Like, she lives by herself, she talks to a horse, and she's got a monkey. Anyway, I like having characters with just a little bit of a weirdness to them.
Well, this is a perfect segue into the next question. But first,
let me just mention that I fell in love with April the moment she Leroy Jenkins in.
It set up a very strong character tone for her, which I'm a huge fan of. And
also, I love that Foot Recruit is absolutely batshit crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
See, again, creating a character a little bit nutty, But Zelda,
Yeah.
man, Zelda's amazing.
Yeah, she was an
so good.
incredible voice actress. She's so good. But I
I'll
do
just
have.
never forget there was this moment in a record where she sort of looked at us and said, "So do you want me to just shout?" And we were like, "Yeah." That's pretty much latched onto that character.
Hang on one
At
second.
first, we sort of made that character. Russ, you remember that character? That story almost got thrown out, by the way.
We had a lot of stories almost get thrown out, by the way.
And that character at first was we made her sort of a little bit more like a teacher's pet, kind of kissing up to her boss's kind of character at first. Remember that, Russ? And then nobody really liked that. And so then we took her down the much more crazy, super hyped direction that she went, and everybody really loved that.
Yeah, she's great. We do have like a couple of questions about April. One of them is like, did you have an arc planned for April? Considering that in the finale, she talks about doubting that she's one of the family. So people are just wondering if you had like a grand arc planned for her where you would go into her insecurities or something like that.
I don't remember.
No, we didn't actually. The thing with her joining the family in the finale really came about in the writing of the finale, and a lot of that was because originally, had we had more time and more episodes, we would have done a lot more with Karai. She was going to be in for an extended, maybe like 10 episodes or something like that, and we had to cut that way back. And the effect of that was that character really got short shrift. And it felt like, in fact, a group of the female board artists actually came to us and said it felt like we were fridging her, which is basically introducing her just to kill her off and then motivate the male characters, which is a sexist thing. And that was when we really had the idea of really sort of like, it was Russ's idea to put her essence into April and have April sort of carry that character forward for the rest of those episodes, which was great. So it wasn't really planned out that she was going to have doubts about that. The April character really grew over time as we wrote her in episodes. Her relationship with Splinter really grew over episodes. I think, what was the name of, I'm blanking on the title of the episode where Splinter goes undercover as Cool Team Randall. The 22-minute one.
Undercover
What's
Rat?
that one called? Shadow of Evil, I think it's called. Oh, it was originally called Undercover Rat, but we changed it. I think it's called Shadow of Evil now. That was where we really started to nail down the April Splinter episode. The April Splinter relationship. And so it really, her character really grew over time. It wasn't planned out ahead of time very much at all.
That's interesting. Also, just as a side note for this, the fandom really, really enjoys the family bond between April and Splinter. When we do our like trending battles on Twitter, that people often, because then people are just posting about everything they love about the show. And this is definitely like a consistent thing that comes up. Their relationship is definitely a huge selling point for people.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't planned that way. It just came about naturally and it worked.
There's
wonderful. A lot of stuff we don't plan.
But what about April's parents? The boys seemed really excited to meet April's parents at one point, and we only got to see the back of April's mom. Did you have any plan for her parents?
I think that falls in the category of stuff we would never have had time for. Don't you think, Russ?
Yeah, I definitely
agree. It was easier just to keep the parents in the background there because that's just two more characters to work with.
Yeah, that's fair. So, here's a question: were Foot Recruit and April ever going to hang out and have like a double episode? People really want to know.
We didn't have that planned yet. You saw what we have for those two characters, and it's only in the at the very end of season 2 that Foot Recruit actually becomes an ally. So prior to that, it wouldn't really have happened. other than the interactions you saw in like Always Be Brownies or episodes like that. But could that happen? I suppose it could.
We just would love to see them team up and get their own episode, just for a future reference. When we get the show back and you guys can write something, keep that in mind, okay?
There we go. There we go.
Sure. I would like to have any of these characters that we've created propagate to a different incarnation. That would make me happy. Any of them, I think. I know that there are a lot of people who are probably a little bit ticked that we didn't have a Bebop or a Rocksteady, but I hope that somebody in the future of TMNT says, you know what, I like Foot Recruit. Let's put her in something. That would make me happy.
I would love Draxum to carry on between iterations. I really, really like Draxum. He's such a good character.
He's cool.
He became a lot more fun once he's the ally who still has villain tendencies. That's always a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah, did you plan his eventual evolution into dad from the start? And did you always know that underneath the mask he was always like a super cute pink goat man?
I wanted his horns to still be around when his mask came off, because I think there's something funny about that. But no, I can't really remember the stuff like the dad kind of stuff. I always found it a little bit off-putting that Draxum was, that people were calling him dad, because he's sort of like the OBGYN. He's not really the dad. I mean, Splinter's their dad. To me, it felt a little bit off, taking that father-son's love away, out of the picture, or diluting it a little bit, not taking it away. But
it was always the plan that he would eventually become an ally. Like the whole arc of him getting the dark armor and that going haywire, and then Shredder becoming the main villain, and Draxum becoming, sort of a tense ally, was always in Ant and Andy's plan from the get-go. The extent to which we play him as a second dad, I think, came up later. That was something Andy really liked. We wound up having a lot of fun with it, though. Particularly Mikey's relationship with Draxum and the way he's kind of helping him when none of the others want to.
It's so cute.
It is. I'm a big fan.
And the tension between Splinter and Draxum is fantastic. That dinner scene in the one episode where
please pass the creamed corn.
Yeah. It was so good. Mutated. Oh no. It was so funny. It was so good. That episode was, like, in general, that episode was wonderful. The entire Draxum going from like a really cool comedic villain to going to like a reluctant comedic ally was wonderful. Like that entire thing. Like, I was hoping that Draxum would be an ally from the start because I liked him so much.
Same.
Because he was funny. So when that actually happened, I was clapping and laughing my just like absolute head off. It was so good.
That's great.
Yeah, in that scene, the dinner scene, it was always my hope that Splinter would leap up onto the table with knives, like ready to kill. But animation is hard, and we had a lot of constraints with what we could depict, only because of the cost effectiveness of things. There was like a whole rating system. This is a level 4 episode. We need a level 1 episode. So we need 2 level 1s, and then you can have a level 3. Anyway, so Splinter didn't.
Yeah, it gets labor intensive, which is another thing about not having too many characters in an episode. Just putting multiple characters in one shot is a lot more work for the animators, because you have to animate all of them at once, and it becomes labor intensive and costly. So you have to limit yourself in lots of ways that people don't realize in animation, particularly when you're producing a TV show that's got to come out every week. In a movie, you can do whatever you want. You have a lot more money. But in a TV show that's got to crank out episodes every week, there are real limits on what you can do.
That's why sometimes you'll see, characters wobble off screen and wobble in screen or on screen instead of, proper walk cycles. It's because they're cutting corners on animation to, get it done as quickly as possible. So
I mean, but when it comes to the animation of the show, there really isn't a lot of corner cutting. The animation in this show is so good and excellent. Flying Bark really put a lot of work in that.
Everybody did. The art is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the show looks great, and when we say corner cutting, a lot of it is clever ways to do something so that it still looks great, even though it's relatively, even though it's simpler to animate. There are workarounds that if you're good and you know what you're doing, you can do, and it still looks good. But then there is some stuff that is just amazingly well done, and you know, the moments where they spent the money and spent the time on this show are just, there's a level of action and cinematic storytelling sometimes that is just, you don't see in other cartoons.
Yeah, it really, Rise really does stand out. Like it's so good, and people definitely are noticing it. Like more and more people are coming in wanting more, like now that the finale has dropped. So, but to get the final Draxum question out of the way, were you ever gonna give us a flashback episode about Draxum? Were we gonna see his backstory and why he got so mad?
I don't think we specifically planned that. I mean, we did have a general understanding of, I mean, I don't know. Well, you know, there's a whole mythology that we talked about. We spent countless hours talking about mythology and, you know, what inspired Draxum and that kind of a thing. I don't know that we ever sort of had a practical plan to deliver that, but like the prophecy and all that. Yeah, I don't remember that. Do you, Ron?
Well, a lot of it comes down to screen time again. I mean, yeah, there's this whole idea that there's this prophecy that there was something that was threatening the hidden city, and Draxum thought it was humans, and that's why he wanted to take on humans, but it turns out that really the threat is Shredder. We mention all that stuff very briefly in spots, but we never had the time to really spell it out. And you know, had we had more episodes, we probably would have gotten more of that backstory in there, and you'd understand more about the origins of the hidden city, and maybe someday that stuff will all come out. But yeah, there's a lot that we just didn't have time for. I'm going to say something else about that on the prophecy front and the threat being humans. Oh, there's also an idea that humans essentially forced the yokai into the hidden city, that at one point they coexisted on the surface, and then the yokai were forced into hiding, and Draxum is angry about that.
Oh wow, that's really cool information. So, but are there more places like the Mystic City, like in different places on Earth, or is it just underneath New York exclusively?
I think there has to be. It has to all be connected. You want the yokai to feel like they're spread throughout the entire globe, and you know, hey, one question: why were all of the pieces to Shredder's armor in New York? There has to be some kind of a network of these beings all throughout the world.
Yeah, and New York is just a hot spot. I mean, that makes sense. Also convenient for storytelling.
It's convenient for storytelling, but I always one pitch that I had. You know, when you break the armor wants to get back to itself. So I always sort of figured in my headcanon that no matter where the pieces were in the world, through time, you know, hundreds of years, they would eventually wind up together, because when they smashed, when they smashed the teapot, there's that one piece that just kind of wants to wobble back into the teapot.
Yeah.
So somehow the mysticism of the suit wants to be back with itself. I don't know. Just cut that out. That's a whole pointless rant that I just.
No. It makes sense. It does make sense, because Lujitsu or Splinter definitely has the teapot, and the teapot isn't going anywhere. So the other pieces of the armor gravitating towards it makes perfect sense. It's the one static thing.
Thank you for validating our huge cheat.
You are welcome. This is what this podcast is for.
Yeah. Oh, and you know, by the way, anything that, like, you know, if if Ant has any other ideas about this stuff, then that's the canon. This is just my perspective and pitches that I made in the room. It doesn't mean anything.
Of course. But talking about the armor, like how it seems to mold and fit whoever wears it, like power-wise. Like Draxum gets a whip and some drills, but what would a human like Orokusaki get when put on the armor? Like, is there like a special different flavor to each person that gets it, or is this like always the same kind of power?
Well, that's a good question. I guess it would be. I mean, I think that Draxum, when he goes into the armor, it's an imperfect fit because the armor is flawed at that time. So we may not be seeing the full true nature of the armor at that moment. And maybe that's why some of Draxum's ability comes through. When the piece is restored, then Shredder becomes truly Shredder, and that's who Shredder is. I guess I think that would just always be what the dark armor is, but we never really answered that. It could take on different characteristics if somebody different is in it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense since he didn't have the entire armor on, so he didn't get 100% possessed. So that makes sense.
Transform. He did not become Shredder. When the armor is fully restored, then Draxum is booted out of it. It takes its essence just because it needs that for power, and then it becomes Shredder, which is what it's truly meant to be.
I think I'm going to create a new class of answer, which is just Ask Ant.
Okay.
No, there's a lot of stuff, that even surprised us when we were writing it, that Ant had in his head about something that we never heard about. Because we weren't always in the room together. So, and Ant loves mythologies and, just rich stories and bigness in his narrative stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm sure he has answers to that we're happy to speculate about. But ultimately, I think I'll just say, ask Ant.
That's fair.
Yeah, but how about the Leo becomes leader arc? Was that planned? Like, was he going to gradually grow into the leader role throughout the series, and it just kind of got shoved to the side because of the time constraints, and the joke at the end was like a way to just address that?
I think that's pretty accurate. Here's the thing about the leader thing. Yes, the initial idea of the show was Leo would eventually become the leader over time as he matured. But once we had Raph as the leader, we really liked Raph as the leader. We really had a lot of fun with Raph.
We do too. A lot of people do too. Everyone loves Big Leader Raph. He's so good.
And having written for the 2012 show, where Leo was always just kind of the guy telling everybody else to get serious and whatnot, it opened up so many new things for Leo to have him not be the leader. So there was just so much more fun to be had. And so, frankly, once we got it going, we sort of didn't really want to change it.
To me, I didn't like. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the other thing that's tricky about it is you at that point you're also taking something away from Raph, and how do you do that in a way that's not mean towards Raph?
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah, I Ron basically summarized it. I like Raph, and Raph is a complicated. He's not that complicated, but one of the things I like about Raph is that Raph has vulnerability. Like he's not the greatest tactician, but he is the leader, and so you have a built-in internal conflict about how he can save keep his brothers safe and defeat the foe, with his limitations. Whereas in other iterations, like the 2012 Leo. He was very smart, and he was the best at martial arts, and and he was the leader. So it's like there wasn't a whole lot of flaw built into him. And I think you get that with Raph, and I didn't want to see it go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really good vehicle for like a character. Like it's good for storytelling. The Leo being leader thing, like that's the thing about these old kind of characters, that all of them or most of them were built flawless. And that doesn't really tell very good stories. If the character that's like, it's like Superman, when a character can literally do everything, then they're not a very good character.
Yeah,
on that
absolutely.
point, when we were in this kind of like a spitball meeting, talking about the turtle, talking about the rise before we, they'd even hired writers, and a lot of what we heard was about, it was an enthusiasm for like, Leo is like, he's this amazing guy who's super positive and super cool and super this and super that. And I remember one of the questions that we had, Ron and I, in that session was, well, what is he bad at? Because, often, obviously you want to make a character that's interesting. And so you often focus on those positive attributes, but it's also important to figure out what they're bad at. And the 2012 Leo wasn't really bad at anything. And by doing that, you then create, and in this case, Leo being a bit of a corner cutter, somewhat of a slacker, now you have somewhere for your stories to spring forth from. That was a horribly written sentence, but conflict is where good stories come from. And having a character who is, what kind of decisions Leo is going to make if he's the corner cutting guy and he is required to make a decision. And that's important in storytelling.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
We also sort of landed on the idea that he would be the one who really struggled with the mystic stuff. And that comes through in a few of the early episodes, like the Minotaur Maze one, where he is struggling to use his portaling ability. That helped us, that he's good at everything normally, but he's actually not that great at the mystic stuff. Raph and Mikey actually catch on to that a lot faster than Leo does.
Yeah, Donnie doesn't catch onto that like at all. And that was one of the questions. Was he going to have like a magic learning / acceptance arc? Because at the end, he talks about knowing everything about the Mystic City. And like, we were just wondering if he was, because of the Donnie versus Witch Town, where he kind of learns to accept magic, and his insecurity is basically born from the fact that he becomes obsolete if magic can do everything Tact does, but better. So, and that, by the way, really, really hurt my feelings in the good way. But it hurt a lot of feelings in a good way. But we were just wondering if given more time, would you have gradually expanded his acceptance for magic? Like, people just want to theorize.
I think we probably would have. I think, one thing that did happen in the course of the finale was he accepted it really wholeheartedly in sort of our original version. And Josh Brenner actually said, it feels like we're selling out the character if he just suddenly makes a leap to magic. So we would have always kept his tech side. There's no question about that. He never would have like given up on his tech for the sake of, because he thought mystic stuff was better or something. But yeah, I think he was starting to gradually accept it a little bit. It wouldn't have happened easily for him because he doesn't change easily about anything. But I think over time he would have maybe started using it a little bit.
That's nice to hear. Nice to hear that he'd accept that part of himself, I guess. That's
I could see him using it for really stupid reasons, though.
Yes, definitely. Just also to rub it into Leo's face that he can now do magic, and like Leo has to suffer because of it.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But what would have his original mystic weapon in episode 1? What would this weapon have done?
I don't know.
In the alternate universe where he also grabs a mystic weapon,
I think it would do everything that his tech bow did, only it would just be like, see-through fists and rockets and whatever.
Well, then I'm glad that he didn't switch it out.
I like that he was so confident.
He couldn't have. He's got to be tech. Definitely at that point.
Also, his stuff didn't break, so if it ain't broke, why fix it? Like, why replace something that clearly didn't break? So it definitely is superior. It makes logical sense.
It's made pure Dontanium.
Titanium.
Good. That makes all the sense. Also, were you going to have like a little arc for Raph and Mikey? Because in one of the cut episodes that you guys tortured us with, you mentioned that Raph loses control of basically his like giant spirit form and has to get Draxum's help to basically get it under control. Did you have kind of like these smaller arcs for Raph and Mikey planned?
I think every episode where we pair up two characters tells you something about the relationship between those two characters. So, Hot Soup the Game was definitely a Raph Mikey episode where we saw Raph's overprotective side towards Mikey. And, we do that in lots of episodes, even just in small ways. We learn about Leo and Donnie have had a fight and Leo wants to make it up to him. So every episode is kind of like that, I think. Some of them were more archy, like Splinter and Draxum's relationship was obviously something that had to be built over several episodes. In terms of Raph and Mikey, you could do a lot in one episode where you'd learn quite a bit about how those two relate to each other.
That's really nice. Also, everyone really mourns the loss of a Leo and Donnie team up episode and a Raph and Donnie team up episode. We mourn that. Like that and the tiny little baby turtle tot episode. Everybody mourns these.
I mourned the Boop of a Snoot line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hang on.
I mourned it deeply so much.
Oh, that episode, that got as far as the animatic, and actually it was really good.
Oh man.
God, why would you say that to me? My heart.
Suffering.
Well, we got a couple of questions for people who are curious about things. I'm gonna start with the one that I care about the least. What's the deal with the Swedish chef? Russ wanted to talk about this, so I added it on the list. What's the deal about the Swedish chef? Cal on Twitter desperately hates this character.
What? I'm not on Twitter, so I'm so confused.
Nati, let me set the tone for both you and the people who aren't on Twitter who are listening to this. When we did our Twitter spam yesterday to get the tags trending, the Cal, which is Calzoni on Twitter, posted a 112 tweet, a long thread.
What?
About how much they hate the Swedish baker man from the episode Pizza Puffs. And it's not just like, it's not like a small one. It's like a generally large, very, very hateful, all caps lock thread with multiple reasons why they hate this character. And it was a beauty to read.
I don't think any of us have anything invested into that character. So if Cal got it out and feels good now, then that's fine by me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a throwaway character. We needed Leo to go to somebody for information, and it's really, that whole bit is more about Leo trying to fight through his fever state to be coherent and get through that part of the mission. We just needed any kind of chef for that.
I personally thought it was funny, but I mean, Cal has a visceral reaction to the fact that this, I just from the top of my head, some of the reasons are this person made a customer do work for them and also didn't help them when they were clearly struggling.
I love this fandom. This fandom is so good.
Everyone's very protective of Leo. Okay, everyone loves him.
Wow. Well, Leo wasn't exactly a customer. He was going there for help. He wasn't going to buy anything. So I don't know that it's that bad. The guy made him do some work to earn what he wanted. But I mean, I don't think the guy really is supposed to be putting him to work. He just is kind of casually saying, "Can you just move that stuff for me?" So because he's busy or whatever.
I'll make sure I tell Cal about that. Maybe that will lessen the hatred a little bit for this poor unnamed Swedish chef man.
If he wants to hate the character.
Say what? Sorry, I spoke over you.
Oh, I said if he wants to hate the character, it's okay by me. What did you say, Russ?
Didn't I do ridiculous scratch for that character? I feel like I did. Like, oh, he was just like, I feel like he was something really ridiculous.
I don't even remember who actually did the voice for that character. Was it Bowser? Who did that voice? I don't know.
I don't remember.
Oh, you have to check.
I don't know.
I'm gonna check.
Well, while Natty checks about we do Swedish chef research here on this podcast. But one of the other characters people want to know is what's the deal with Miss Cuddles? What is she? Is she a yokai? Is she a demonic possessed stuffed animal? Like, did you ever like nail down what category she's in?
I don't know. I personally would assume she's a yokai of some kind, but you know, Ian would be the person to ask. Juice Fridge on Twitter. He loves horror, the horror genre, and so it may have been sort of born out of a Chucky inspiration. But I mean, our world is pretty either mutant or yokai.
Yeah, I think she'd have to be a yokai. She's not a mutant. I think she'd have to be a yokai.
Oh, I mean, I'd be horrified to see an entire species of Miss Cuddles just hanging out in the Mystic City, but that does answer a lot of questions. We're happy to hear it. Thank you for your opinions.
Yeah, I don't know that yokai necessarily have to comprise an entire species. Like, I don't know if there's anybody else like Baron Draxum. Like, they're all. You see some like Shanita has a family, but I think there are also some that are sort of one-off yokai. You know, so. There don't have to be any other Mrs. Cuddles is out there.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm also glad for I hope that Mr. Cuddles is just like a very serious, big, scary looking yokai.
True, we never met Mr. Cuddles. I guess maybe we should, huh?
Yeah, definitely add it if you get the chance. All right, the Swedish baker was voiced by Oliver Wacker.
Oh yeah, Oliver. Yeah, he did a lot of voices for us. He's a very good actor.
He did good enough job to have Cal very upset. But speaking of names, do Footbrute and Foot Lieutenant have actual names? Just like within the crew, like what did you guys call them? Did you name them?
No, they didn't have names. It was that was an ant thing. Was that when you join the Foot, you give up your name? So. They I mean, they may have had names at some point, but they are not named. And neither was Foot Recruit until the very end.
Oh, that's really interesting. That's actually very interesting. I like to hear that the Foot Clan takes away your identity. That's rough.
Yeah. Once you get kicked in the face, that's it.
Oh yeah, true. That's the thing.
Yeah, they take away.
Although I guess the one member of the Foot whose name we know is Jocelyn. The one who gets promoted.
Oh yeah, they haven't taken her name away yet. Oh no.
Yeah, well, she doesn't have a name anymore, I guess.
Yeah, there's also, speaking of names, can you tell us anything about Big Mama's assistant?
No. Nah.
All right, that's what I expected. All right, moving on.
Yes, but no.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's perfectly legitimate. This was just us trying to get some answers, but I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess that not being able to tell us is good news in a way. Suffering, but good news. All right, can you maybe tell us? Wait, yeah. People wanted to know like about the smaller villains. Like, what kind of yokai was Ghost Bears going to marry, and what was the episode Warren Stone 2 going to be about?
Oh wow, so that's right. You know, none of those aired.
We are all very upset about this.
Yeah.
I don't know, Russ. What do we do about episodes that didn't air? I don't know if we can really talk about them. Because they could conceivably someday exist again.
I'll take that. I'll take that and run with it. I'm very happy to hear this information.
Well, no, don't take anything I say as an actual indication of anything. Like, I'm just saying.
It's one of those things where if it did happen, you know, obviously, I don't know. I mean,
the hypothetical case.
Better safe than sorry. I understand.
Just so you guys know, we don't have any information about anything potentially happening with the series in the future, which doesn't mean that it could or couldn't. It just means we would not be the ones who would know about it if anything like that was going on. So don't take anything we say as an indication of anything that we're like being, if they wouldn't tell us about this, that must mean this is going to happen. That's not the case. We don't have that kind of knowledge.
No, of course not. That's not.
If the show ever were to be brought back in any form, some of those are episodes that we might actually still be able to use. So, like, I wouldn't want to do any spoilers for episodes,
of course,
that exist someday. Although, don't think that means that they will. It doesn't.
Okay.
It's just,
I mean, we don't wanna ruin anything that could potentially be used to make there be less time between season 3 getting picked up and us getting new episodes. So everyone totally understands that. Yeah. So like, you made all the turtles different species and everyone's really happy about that. But did you plan on digging into the differences? I think that a lot of this stems from the fact that Donnie's a soft shell. So like, he has all the cool basically armor on his back. Like, were you ever going to focus a bit more on that?
If we'd had time. Like, we didn't, like, that was all Aunt Andy's plan from the beginning, having them be the different species. And yeah, Donnie having different battle shells and seeing his shells every now and then without the battle shells over it, was all stuff we wanted to do. It's just stuff that we didn't end up having a whole lot of time for. So, and I kind of worry that people, when we would mention it, that people wouldn't even have picked up on the idea that they were all different turtles, all different species of turtles. But it's great that the fans do realize that. So I think, yeah, falls in the category of one of those things that if only we had more time in each episode or more episodes to do, we could have gone into some more of that stuff.
I think some of the species things were also really subtly hinted in the show and animation and just some things happening. If you know that, for example, Raph's stink is just his species kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that, and Mikey's the only one whose head can go into his shell.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are little things like that, and they come through in the personalities too, I think. But unfortunately, we couldn't really go into it as much as we'd have liked to.
I'm sure that we're just happy to hear that it was going to be touched on a little bit more, because it's definitely a big selling point for Rise, is that they're all not only very different and fresh in personality, but they're also, like, design-wise, it's nice. Also, one of the things that have been pointed out on Twitter is that it also really helps, like, colorblind viewers, because when you're colorblind, if they all look identical, like, at a glance, except for the colors of the bandana, they get kind of hard to distinguish. So having them have distinct silhouettes really helps.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the other thing about it, a lot of the traditional Turtles fans were really upset. Like, we saw posts about how that means they're not really brothers. And that always made me mad, because a family can come together and they can be brothers even if they're not biologically brothers,
exactly.
And it's a kind of a terrible thing to say about people who are adopted, to think that they're not, that somehow that's not the same as a sibling that you have the same DNA with. And of course, they actually are brothers, because Splinter, they all have Splinters.
Exactly. They all share Luchit's DNA.
Yeah, so it's it upsets me that people would have a problem with that, and I think it is great. It's another one of the messages of the show, is that really anybody can care about anybody. Anybody can form a family. It doesn't have to be one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful message, and I love that. The one other question that people just like, and I understand that you guys can't really say much since you're not the be all end all creators of the show and stuff, but was there ever talk of like a 2012 or 2003 crossover episode? Did you ever discuss or like think about that, throw out ideas?
I can't remember. Did that ever come up, Russ? I don't feel like it did. I mean, the closest one is the one with the Mud Dogs, where we went and got the 2012 actors to play the parts of those corresponding characters that match up with Leo and Mikey and Donnie.
Yeah, I think that was the
crossover
extent of it.
Yeah, I don't think we ever talked about doing any other kind of crossover. I mean, it'd be difficult to do a 2012 one because that show is CG and our show was Rise was 2D, so it's hard to put those two animation styles together.
Yeah, we're not the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, I mean, you're almost the Spider-Verse as far as some animation is concerned. But yeah, so now we just have a couple of very general questions. Like, who's your favorite turtle to write?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I mean, I don't want to play favorites. I really don't, because I love, like, you know, when I start writing ref, I get into that, you know, my voice starts to change and then the words come out, you know, like I'm not saying that to, you know, to do an Omar impression, but I love, like, I get each of these characters. I mean, I would maybe lean a little more toward Donnie, I think, just because I mean, what Brenner is going to do is just going to blow my mind in the booth. Like, I love writing for each and every one of them. I mean, I know what what he's gonna sound like when he delivers the line. That's hard. That's really tough. Ron, save me.
It is hard because and we get elements of their characters of the actors into each of the four characters. Like Brandon Michael Smith, who plays Mikey, is a big hugger. So Mikey's a big hugger. Josh Brenner does not like physical contact, so Donnie's not a hugger. And you know, and then Leo, of course, he's Ben Schwartz all over, and we get so much great ad-lib stuff out of Ben. And I think maybe one of the most fun things, speaking of that Swedish Chef scene, was the take where he had to do that whole long speech about about giving him an award and this whole thing. And we had Ben do a couple takes, and then Russ had the great idea of, now close the script and don't look at it and try to do it from memory, because he wanted him to mess it up. You know?
Oh no, that's so cool.
And he would be game for anything like that. They do all have great elements. On 2012, I always found it easier to generate stories for Donnie than any other turtle, I think. But on this show, there's different elements to each one of them that make them fun to write for.
Yeah, that's because they're all very good characters.
Yeah, by really great actors.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. I mean, the voice cast for this show is absolutely phenomenal. Like each and every one of them fits the character so well. Like there's like every single character has such a nice, distinct voice. And I know that a lot of people voice different like sets of characters, like multiple characters. But I don't think that I've ever personally noticed the same voice coming from a different character. Like I have never basically heard the same voice actor do different things. Like it's so good. Everyone's so talented.
Yeah. Well, with the Turtles, we didn't use them to do other voices very much, because that you would pick up sometimes. With Eric Bauza, who plays Splinter, I mean, he can do anything. The guy his range is so phenomenal, and he can do so many different. I mean, he's the voice now of like every Looney Tunes character.
Spread it around, Bauza.
Yeah, you really can't tell when he does more than one character. And then, you know, a lot of the other people that we get are such old pros. You know, Rob Paulson will do different voices for us, or Oliver, who we were just talking about, Oliver Vacker. There's so many amazingly talented people in voice acting, and you just are blown away sometimes by how good some of them are.
Rob's a seasoned pro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, very, very much so. Very good. But another, well, I did say it was a general question, not an easy question. So here's another general question for you. What's your favorite part about working on the show?
Voice records.
Yeah, definitely voice records. I mean, just I've always loved being in a room with smart and funny people, and just shooting the shit, which is a lot of what your day is, because you save writing for the very last moment. But definitely voice records. Like I would leave any other meeting or anything just to go to a voice record. Also, they had free food.
Okay.
The actors are so great and fun to hang out with, and we have great casting people and sound people, and it's just a really fun environment. And the just being there and getting to know how they're going to deliver a line. I got to say, I think that the most satisfying thing is when you're writing something and you're thinking it in your head. You're going, I know exactly how he's going to deliver this one, and it's going to be so good. And then you go in the record, and that exact thing happens, and you are so happy.
There was one that Omar did. I can't remember what the line was, but I remember it being like I think it was the not we you come on, you know which one. No. It was a very complicated, and that's what do-gooders good doers do.
The do-gooders one, yeah.
Like, well, we knew exactly how Omar was.
We do good and we do it well, or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
And we knew exactly how Omar was going to deliver that, and it was put in front of him, and he did it exactly that way with the right pacing and that kind of thing. And that's always very satisfying when you have that synergy between writer and actor, and it works. And the other great thing about records is that it's pretty much later on in the process, but it's pretty much your last opportunity to really squeeze out comedy. Because once one of the final stages of the recording process is ADR, and that's where you basically go in and you add little oomphes and based on what has changed in the animation. And sometimes you can drop in okay, instead of falling and yelling could you do something weird like just yell or you could add some kind of gag in there that it's your last chance to sort of sweeten the comedy of the thing. So that's always fun.
It's when you put in the last time like audio jokes, which there's so many good audio jokes on this show. It's very, very good. Like, it's so funny. This show, that's one of the things about this show, is that it's consistently funny. If anything, it gets funnier as the episodes progress, and but you can really tell that the entire writing staff really got to know the characters and like managed to exaggerate the parts of it that generate the comedy, because the characters just get better and better and better with every episode. So you guys did a wonderful job on that.
Thank you.
I think one of my favorite audio jokes by Josh Brenner is in that episode with the Scorpion villain, with the fog or whatever, the fog grenade or mist grenade or whatever, and then
what he says, you have to move before the smoke clears, and
the smoke
the
grenade.
delivery on that is so good. The delivery is wonderful.
That was so good.
Even just the fun of all the like his call outs, like Fibonacci and all all the nerdy stuff we give him, or the Memorizing Pi channel and all that kind of stuff is just so much fun. And we figured out very early that he actually did know stuff about math and science. He went to Harvard. He's a pretty smart guy, and so we started to incorporate that stuff and to try to actually give him stuff that maybe he wouldn't know, just to challenge him. It became a game. Let's see if he knows this or not.
in Origami Tsunami, at the very end, when he gets grossed out by he makes some line, or he says some line like paper viscera, and that was
paper viscera.
Right. That was Brenner's ad-lib, and I think it might have been an ADR or something like that, or I don't know when it happened in the process, but Yeah, because he's smart and he knows that kind of stuff. Why wouldn't you call it paper viscera?
This show is so good. It's so, it's so good.
The one of the episodes that I'm upset didn't get made is the one where Dale turns into a werewolf, because by this point Donnie he's for whatever reason he's attending the medical magnet at April's high school. And so he fancies himself a doctor. And so naturally he's the guy who's going to evaluate what's happening to Dale. And he just does this. I don't want to spoil it, but what's to spoil? But he does this examination. He's trying to keep Dale calm, and he's like, oh, don't worry about that, sport. That's just a little thing called growing up. He's in bad shape, April. But
oh no.
But playing Donnie is like this, really over the top. I can't even explain it. You play him really over the top, and that's the stuff that I love doing with Donnie and with Brenner, because when you sort of push his comfort zone a little bit, Brenner, I think you get hilarious stuff out of it.
I mean, it's really putting the heat on Josh Brenner, because you're basically making him voice acting a character. It's like layers of voice acting.
Yeah, well,
right. Yes. Yeah. It's always kind of fun, but that's what good actors do.
Yeah.
Josh is not a boisterous person, so making him boisterous is a lot of fun.
But yeah, I only have a couple more questions for you, and then you are free to go. Is there like a particular like dynamic or plot thing that you wish you could have explored more? Like, I understand if you can't talk about it, but do you have any favorites that you wish you could have talked about on the show?
You mean like Arky stuff?
I mean, arc. The questions were mostly just like, is there a particular dynamic or like a plot thing or something that you would have liked to explore more? I understand that that's basically the entire show, so you don't have to be very specific, but what's like the thing that you're most bummed out about?
We could have done more with Baxter Stockboy. We had some things to do with him down the road that we didn't ever get to. We had some fun ideas for him, and the kid who plays him, Ramon Hamilton, is a really great actor too, and a really nice kid. So we could have done some more fun stuff with him. I guess I think maybe more about Mayhem, about what was really going on with the Hidden City, and we didn't get to do that much Hidden City stuff, honestly. It would have been nice to have spent more time down there. And we would have had we had more episodes. That was a big part of stuff that got cut, was more visits to the Hidden City.
Well, I'm
glad for me, the thing that I like small, funny stories. That's sort of where my focus lies. It's difficult for me to track archy things. I think at some point I feel like I wanted to do an episode maybe where like it's revealed that Mikey and Raph used to be really best friends at some point, but as time went on, somehow they got separated a little bit, and maybe you could do like a heartwarming story in that area of just two best buds who become best buds again after some mission, something like that.
That sounds really cute.
On the 2012 series, there was sort of a distance between Raph and Mikey, and so that might have been kind of the nucleus of it. And we didn't really have that dynamic on this series, so maybe it wasn't quite viable, but it was something that I remember wanting, because I like that emotional sort of story.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that could connect. You could, and I'm just throwing that out there for you specifically. You don't have to tell anyone, but you could connect that to the Savage Raph thing, where Raph freaks out when he's alone, because that was an entire thing that happened that no one expected.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I have one more question, and this is I don't know if this is an easy one or not. Shadows or shorts? Do you think the boys are wearing hot pants, or are those things shadows? The fandom needs to know.
Shorts. Shorts.
They're shadows, but I sure like the idea that they're all wearing hot pants.
Does
that mean that Raph is wearing red garters?
I know.
You know, the design stuff you'd have to ask Andy, but I know that we asked about that because early on we noticed on Twitter people, speculating as to whether or not they were wearing shorts or if they were shadows, and we did ask, and he said shadows.
All right.
As for whether or not that means, how that makes, are they garters? I don't know.
There's not really a way that they could get on through their shells, is there? Like, I don't think that would even be possible.
Well, I don't know. Like, this is why I'm not a character designer. I would have said they were shorts, but
No, they're shadows.
All right, good to know. That has been settled officially. The most important, the point of the podcast is there. We managed to do it, Nutty. We nailed it. We answered the ultimate question. They're shadows.
I mean, I don't have to like the answer.
No. we just wanted the answer. See, good. I'm glad.
That's why headcanons are so important.
Yes. Yeah, be careful what you ask about. Be careful what you ask about.
Well, now we know they're shadows. So that's all the questions, really.
I have one more question, and
sure.
That is from the long sheet, not from the summary. Someone asked, how did you approach bringing in bits from literally every previous iteration of the franchise and melding it into something familiar and nostalgic to fans of every TMNT media past, but also making it fresh and new?
Well, we in particular probably didn't do a whole lot of that. I mean, but we had a crew of talented artists who, anytime they felt an inclination, would seed a lot of that stuff. You would have a character designer who would definitely base a current design in the background on some random character in the franchise that they resonated with somehow. That's all personal choice, and I mean, a lot of that stuff, just comes from artists. Artists always want to put in people that they know and things that they like, and that's great. That's what makes it richer.
I believe that Carl, who was one of our design leads, or one of our art leads, was putting in a whole other canon in Hidden Pictures, wasn't he, Russ? Did we find out at some point?
Yeah, there was something. It's like, oh yeah, no. Yeah, he had a whole bunch of stuff going on that nobody knew about, and well, whatever. Good guy.
So there's a whole other thread hidden in there that we don't even have any clue about. Yeah, and when we did try to bring in an existing franchise character, we always tried to put a new spin on it. Let's still honor some of the older stuff or the pre-existing stuff. A lot of it just comes up. You see an opportunity to do it, and you do it. There was not, Foot Recruit's backstory was, or Foot Recruit's reference to another character was not planned out until long after she was introduced.
Okay.
So that a lot of stuff, you see an opportunity and you take it.
Yeah, it's very good. And I mean,
wait. Foot Recruit was not originally planned to be Casey Jones. That was something that appeared later on.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think. I think I was the one who pitched that at first, but it was probably not until towards the end of season 1, or maybe when we were starting to plan out season 2, that idea was even put out there.
That's interesting.
Because we didn't even know what her character was going to be. It was Ian Bush who first had the idea of a female recruit to the Foot Clan, who'd be sort of a junior to the other two. We were the ones who got the first opportunity to actually use her in an episode, and it was only in the writing of that episode that she became that kind of gung-ho character that she is. And then much later that it seemed like that would be a good fit for Casey.
I mean, I love that personally. I love that development.
I mean, it's good. Yeah. I also like that you put in, you sprinkled enough of stuff that could have been foreshadowing that, like, really generally had people theorizing about it from her first. Like, when she is in the hot soup episode, when she is in there is a hockey stick in one of the containers that Mikey grabs an umbrella from. So people are just like, yes, you planned this from the start because of the hockey stick that's connected to Casey. Yes, good. Like, people were really theorizing it probably before you had decided on it.
That's called pareidolia. Sorry, that's called pareidolia. When you look at a cloud and you see an elephant in it. Or at least I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah.
Just take
when you want to see something, you'll see it.
Yeah.
It's very like everyone's very happy. Like everyone in the fandom is very happy with this Casey. Like, it's, if anything, we're just sad that we didn't get more time with her. She is wonderful as a character. She's so fun and energetic, and Zelda Williams does like an incredible job.
Yeah, she does.
She's definitely one of my favorites, and nice to see more female characters who were fun and exciting and inspire people, like that cosplayer. Oh boy, that was great.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I also like how it really felt like while watching the show, like it was if every opportunity you got, you inserted a female character when it could have been so easy to go with a male character, like Big Mama, for example. It could have been easy to have her be a male character, like minus the whole Lujitsu dating thing, but
Well, thank you. Thank you for the acknowledgement. That's one of those things that nobody really made us do, but we just sort of took initiative to do it. Like we are aware that we were a room full of dudes, so the balance was a little bit tipped unfavorably there. However, if there were opportunities to do something like that, well, why couldn't this character be female? Okay, great. People need to work.
Yeah, it's very appreciated. Like, it's noticed and appreciated. Just know that we all appreciate that initiative on its own means the world to a lot of people.
And sometimes it just starts with a small thing, like the character of Sunita was Laura Sreebney was a freelance writer who wrote that script. And she just named the character Sunita, I think, after a friend of hers or a friend's daughter or something like that. And so we said, okay, all right, well, that's an interesting name. What does that tell us ethnically wise about that character? And so as a result, we wound up casting an Indian American actress, Cody Kavitha, to play that part. And setting up the character to match. And it's just because of a choice that Laura made about the name. But it's so great. I mean, Cody was so excited to have that opportunity and to see a character who looked like her on the screen. She talked to us about how when she was a kid, it seemed like it was so rare that she would see somebody on a TV show who looked like her. And it's just so meaningful to people when they get that opportunity. So, and there was one of the Twitter fans was talking about how meaningful that character was to her for that exact reason. So you just have to take those opportunities when you have them. It makes such a big difference for people.
And it's also part of why when you write stuff, try to do things differently. That's always something I'm striving for is, if there's like a phrase that we use a lot in language, twisting it and putting it, changing it up and putting it in a script, a different take on a classic joke, like, how long have you been standing there? Long enough to get my portrait taken. I mean, that's a bad example because that's a horrible joke, but just making, just twist it up. It doesn't, a person doesn't have to be named John. You can go with, any name from around the world, and then that changes what your show looks like. So mix it up, kids.
That's really good advice. Yeah, like representation is important, and it's also one of the reasons why a lot of people really, really passionately love this show.
It also, Russ said people need to work, and you unearth super talented people. Like, I think Cody's a great actor, who probably just hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities that she should have. And even just our casting on this show, for the first time ever, we had not one but two African American actors playing turtles, and that wasn't particularly an intentional choice, but that's just by being open to casting whoever and listening to a whole bunch of people. We found the people that we like the best, and two of them happen to be African American, and that's great. So just keeping your mind open to the possibility of somebody different playing a part creates so many opportunities, and you get such great things out of it. I mean, the voices that we wound up with for all of our turtles are so fantastic, and there was a time when that might not have happened.
That's very true, sadly.
And we've set the bar, so hopefully future turtles will be as diverse.
Yes, that really, really is the hope, because honestly, it's important, and it's just time to update. It's time to update franchises like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that have been around for so long. Like all franchises that have been around for this long need like a little bit of a refresh. And a lot of people might be mad because of nostalgia. Like more people are very aggressively happy about choices that were made on the show, and we do appreciate everyone who worked on the show for real.
Just saying, I would not ever have gotten into TMNT if it weren't for Ice.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of resistance to it. I mean, there were some comments about April early on, that really turned my stomach.
Yeah, we don't listen to those people. Yeah. Their opinion does not really matter in the current age.
As if the character of April O'Neil was ever celebrated for her Irish American roots. Did they ever have a corned beef and cabbage episode?
No.
There was one comment that really, really galled me. I remember from some hater somewhere about how they didn't like when April, didn't fight in the premiere because they liked her better when she just stayed on the sidelines like a mother hen. I mean, that was a serious comment.
What?
Yeah, I just, that's just appalling.
Yeah.
But I'm very glad that we made a very different April character who loves being part of the team and is definitely a key part of it.
I also love that she's just part of the family. Right from the beginning, she feels like a sister to the turtles.
Yeah, that's the idea.
She is. The thought process, or the thinking behind their relationship was that they'd known each other for years. So like, maybe let's say when she was 11, somehow she stumbled upon the turtles. That was kind of where what the imagined backstory was. So naturally, if you've been best friends for this long, I mean, you can even see what that episode is, wide eyes as, the turtles see her and as she sees the turtles, and then they have an adventure together and then they become best friends. So.
Yeah, that's one I regret that we never got to do. We did always want to do a flashback episode where we find out how they met in the first place.
Oh my God, just hearing that upsets me. Like I want that so bad. Like tiny, like not exactly like baby turtles, but like slight like child turtles and child April just becoming friends. That warms my heart, and I will keep this knowledge with me always.
Well, if everybody wants to do a GoFundMe and raise enough money, to cover the cost of us writing it and our legal fees, we'd be happy to write that story.
I slammed my hand on the desk.
Do not tempt us. We're already fighting as hard as we can, and we will make. Okay, I'm not gonna say anymore, but like, don't tempt us, okay? We're aggressively loving towards this show, so.
You guys are all amazing, and we're very grateful for all of the support that the entire fandom, including you two, have provided. It's astounding to me. I'll look through some of the stuff. I'm like, whoa, these are really professional graphics for, wait, there's an organized effort to hound the networks into picking the suit. Well, it's amazing what you guys do. I mean, it feels good as somebody who, is proud of the work that he did. I just want you all to know it feels good. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
You're very welcome, and we're not planning on stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, we're very passionate about the show. Also, one last question from my side, because I'm very, very curious about this myself. Each of the turtles has a very specific sound that they make. Like, for example, Leo does the oh ho 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 and stuff. And was this something that you guys wrote for them, or was this ad-libbed by the actors?
That kind of stuff generally comes out of the actors. They do it once and you go, oh yeah, whenever he does that, that's really great. And then you just start writing it for them. So yeah, definitely like the Leo, like, yeah, that's us picking up on his voice and his delivery. And so, he did that. He does that. He originated that. I think the funniest one has to be Mikey's oh my gosh, which
Oh, yeah.
we wrote the word. We wrote "oh my gosh," but we spelled it OMIGOSH, which is sometimes the way you do it. All one word, run together. But I guess Brandon had never seen that, so when he read it, he just read "oh my gosh," and we just went, "That's great." That's so cute. So that became his thing from then on, because it fit perfectly, that whole idea of them, not quite getting slang right and that whole thing. So yeah, those kind of things, they definitely come from the actors first, and then once they've done them, we keep using them.
Oh, that's
beautiful.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, that's so good.
I love hearing all these little behind the scenes things that we have no insight on.
It's wonderful. We could keep going and asking you the tiniest, most minute questions and have this be a 3-hour podcast, but we could also slowly start ending it here with an open ending for maybe another one down the road if there's any incentive for it.
Sure. Absolutely.
That's a lot of fun. That sounds wonderful. But do you have any last thoughts, any final words, any wisdom to impart upon us as fans and aspiring creators?
Well, my personal final thoughts, very grateful to Aunt Mandy for creating the opportunity and for bringing us on board. Very grateful to have worked with so many talented people.
There are amazingly talented people in this fandom, and we really appreciate everything that they do, and we are perennially impressed by how good they are at what they do. So if any of you are pursuing those kinds of careers, more power to you. You're going to get there. And I thank you to Aunt Mandy and to our execs at Nick, like Megan Casey and DVE, who were fantastic, and all the artists, directors, our fellow writers who we love to death, and the cast who brought the whole show to life, and the animators as well. It's an amazing show on every level. Everyone killed themselves on the show. It was a hard show. It was a hard show to write. It was a hard show to produce, but everybody did an amazing job, and I think the results speak for themselves.
They do, definitely do. We as the collective fandom, and I'm just going to speak on behalf of everyone, we love this show very much. We love you guys and the rest of the crew very much. We want nothing but the best for all of you and your success and our success. We just just want to win. 2020's been rough, you know? We just kind of want to win.
Let's win, baby.
Yes.
That's the spirit. That's what I wanted to hear. Yeah. I think that's about it. Yeah, nice final words. Nice motivational let's go attitude. Ending it on a high note. I think we got everything we needed.
One more question.
One more question. Okay.
Did you see?
We got to end on a hot soup, though. But go ahead.
One second. We will end on a hot soup in a moment. Did you guys see the scene that we made?
I haven't
the
seen
zine.
it yet.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't understanding what you're saying. Yes, the zine. Yes.
You seen it?
Fantastic.
Yay! I'm so glad.
So impressive. We're blown away by it.
Very happy. This was literally also a little bit of a love letter to the creators, to the fandom. Very happy to hear that you saw it. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, and I mean, Andy posted about it. He was so impressed by it. Like, it's incredible. Like I said, this fandom is amazing. The talent level of this fandom is amazing.
Very glad to hear it. Okay.
Yeah.
Then...
All right. Should we end it on a hot soup?
Yes.
I think we should end it on a hot soup.
All right.
Okay. How about on 3?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Hot soup! Oh, that was really good. It was good. It was nourishing for my soul. It really was. Thank you so much again for coming on the show, Ron, Russ. We appreciate you. This was an incredible experience. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us about Turtles.
I learned a lot about how much really the actors also influence the way the characters are portrayed on the show. I learned a lot about writing a show and working with actors and working with other creative people. And it is always so, yeah, as you said, nourishing for my soul talking to other creatives.
It's nice. I want to get to editing to get this to people as soon as possible. Yes. So let's end the episode.
Let's end the episode here. We are on Twitter at Turtles_Rising. You can follow this YouTube channel. And yeah, just follow us, subscribe, and we hope you enjoy. Stay safe and healthy, everyone.
Wash your hands. Stay healthy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.